What does it look like when the worlds of music and social justice interact? That's the question that I look at on this podcast. It's called It's Giving, and it's hosted by me, Ingela Travers-Hayward. This week, it's giving Dan Campbell from the band The Wonder Years. I could not be a bigger fan of The Wonder Years right now. The reason being, late last year, we got a message from their manager mentioning the band would like to offer some free Narcan at each show that they were about to go on at the merch booth. It's a really common thing that bands want to do in this day and age. And so we thought, of course, absolutely. I love when people want to give that to their fans or make that available to them for free. The thing that happened next, neither Perry nor I were expecting. Every single show, Dan got up on stage, not only mentioning that Narcan was there, but talking about the importance of it, talking about the importance of carrying it, even if you don't do drugs, talking about why it was so important for them as a band to have it available. He would speak with the level of passion that Perry and I do when we are trading people up at a festival. It was just so remarkable to see. And I am just so appreciative that someone with his platform was willing to use it to amplify Narcan. Because in this day and age, we need all the help we can get when we're talking about the importance of this stuff. So with that, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, go back and subscribe, follow. We're available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube if you want to watch it there. That just gives me the little boost to keep going. I've talked to a lot of interesting artists. I've got a lot more exciting artists that I'm talking to in the next coming weeks. And so that follow button being clicked by you just gives me the support that I need to keep this train running on the tracks. And with that, here's Dan, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Dan, thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, I generally start this in a really sort of broad way by asking musicians, what is the first example that you can think of, your band, The Wonder Years, has been, in my opinion, like really forward with social justice, activism, advocacy, talking about what you care about for ages, Is there a moment that you can think of that's the first example of when you used sort of your band for social good in some way?
I mean, the first thing I can think about was when I was like a teenager putting on like local shows.
Yeah.
And there was a band from our area called El Toro, and El Toro had been talking about the civil war in Uganda and like the horrors that were occurring there. And I think I must have been like 17, and we set up a benefit show. This is before Wonder Years. This was 3 members of the Wonder Years were in a band called the Premier before we were in high school, and we set up a benefit show to raise money to send to. And it's crazy now because it's been over 20 years that I don't remember the name of the nonprofit, but Invisible Children. It was called Invisible Children.
Good memory. I've been impressed.
And then took people from, it was the same night that there was like a demonstration at the Constitution Center in Philadelphia where everyone would camp out on the yard or on the lawn to raise awareness, because at that point, Ugandan children were camping in these little areas where they could be guarded by like adults to make sure that they weren't kidnapped in the night. And so we basically played the show to raise the money for the organization, and then led like a caravan of people down to the city, and we did the camp out. And that was like, I think that was the first time I did something that was like kind of overtly political.
What is it, do you think, that makes you someone who wants to have that be a part of your career? Like, what was it? Do you think, this is who you've been since you were born, or you saw someone and wanted to emulate that because you admired them? Like, what is it that makes a person want to use sort of their music career to help other people?
I guess it definitely had something to do with going to punk and hardcore shows and seeing community happen, in real time. Not community that was chosen, that wasn't foisted upon you, that wasn't, a church group or a school or someplace that you were put, but a group of people that chose each other and decided to hold each other up and try to support each other and support, the causes that they, the various causes that people in that community would stand for, and everyone would kind of rally around those things. I think that it had a lot to do with punk and hardcore.
It seems like, to me, I think when I've talked to musicians sort of from all different genres, and it seems like certain genres are more apt to be open about the things they care about political causes, this, that, or whatever. And I think hardcore and punk seems to be one that, yeah, it is very part and parcel with the music you play. Do you feel like that's still the case in this day and age, or do you feel like sort of as you've moved through your musical career, people in the genre have gotten more political or less political?
I would say that right now it feels like there is. I guess it depends on like the regime that you're living under, right? Like
Yeah.
in the Obama years, it felt like it was less political because it felt like, whether true or not, right? Like at the time, I was not cued into the drone strikes and the war crimes, but
Yeah.
I think that, as you move into, the 45 presidency and the 47 presidency and the Biden presidency even, and the genocide in Gaza and the ICE raids and the attack on LGBTQ people and just all of these things that you're seeing happen so constantly, it does feel like these are the times where, yeah, I'm seeing more punk bands, more hardcore bands, more punk adjacent bands say that we need to be talking about it or doing something about it.
When, I was, I think I saw a clip of you from, I think it was the DC stop of Warp Tour, where you're just up on stage and you say, protect trans kids, fuck ICE, does that stuff just feel like a no-brainer? Or do you sort of ever have to reconcile your career with deciding what to speak out on?
I think that there has to be those thoughts are always going on, right? It's not even necessarily my
Yeah.
career. Sometimes it's like your safety, right? Like when we
Yeah.
say things like
That's true.
that, we do get like a deluge of threats, right? Like they come into our
Yeah.
inboxes, right? People are
Yeah.
threatening. People come up. Our merch guy almost had to fight someone that was coming up and threatening him and threatening us, and that kind of thing
No
happens like with
way.
like a level of consistency that maybe you wouldn't expect, and especially when it's
Hmm.
not our shows. At a headline
Yeah.
show, it's different. Those people are in the crowd. They kind of know what we're about. When you're playing a festival or a support show and people are, being exposed to you for the first time, they might disagree and disagree violently. And so there's
Mhm.
always that. There's always,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, there is always like kind of a lingering anxiety that comes with it that like this could turn into something, violent or worse, directed at you. And I think that like, is it a no-brainer? I don't know. It's a compulsion more than anything.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that I like doing. It's not the way that I don't want that to be our show, right? I want to live in a world where
Yeah.
that's not necessary and that going to a Wonder Years concert is, just a place of community and commonality and healing and joy. And like I went to see Bruce Springsteen the other night, and like
Yeah.
in my perfect world, I just get to see Bruce and he just rips through Thunder Road and 10th Avenue Freeze Out, and it's a blast the whole time. But, several
Yeah.
times through the show, he makes a point to stop and talk about like the persistent horrors. And I understand and respect why that's what's happening right now, because when you're given that microphone, it feels like when I'm holding the mic and I'm standing on the stage and I'm looking out at all those people, I feel like I will not be able to go to sleep that night unless I use that platform for what I believe to be morally correct. And like,
Yeah.
it's not something I enjoy doing. I don't think that it makes the show more enjoyable. I don't think if anything, it makes our band less popular. It makes me a target for violence. Like but like it's a necessary thing. I don't feel like I could not do it.
So, for because I think, I suffer a lot from nonprofit brain where it's like, I totally agree and understand everything you're saying. If someone is not as aware and they say to you, why do you decide to talk about this stuff? Why is it important when you're up on that stage and that microphone? Or why is it, like you said, necessary for you to say that? What kind of conversation would you have with them to answer that question for them?
I don't know. It feels like a moral imperative when I
Yeah.
when I see when I see these things unfolding, right? Like when we watch what happens when ICE rolls into a city, when you see, these families in Gaza having their lives torn apart, and you watch these people mourning their relatives, and it's like, I know a lot of people talk about like when you're in high school and you're reading about like a horrifying historical event, or of one of the various genocides that have happened in the world, and you go, well, if I was alive then, I would have done X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, you're alive now, right?
Yeah.
I'm alive now, and I'm holding a microphone in front of thousands of people. What am I going to do?
I think that's really beautifully put. And yeah, I think that is something that people think a lot about, is that question of, if I would have been around then, how would I have moved through that? And so I think that's very well put. And I guess it makes me wonder, how do you decide what you want to speak about? Because, there's unfortunately no shortage of, atrocities happening both within our country and outside of it right now. It's like, is there ever a back and forth within probably your own head over what do I want to address versus what do I not feel is the right thing to talk about?
Well, I mean, yeah, there are just like such a mounting number of horrors. And we talk about it and we go, hey, like, let's see if we can add something here and talk about, like, let's talk about Iran. Like, let's see if we can find a way to talk about being like a band that, is against, imperialism and colonialism. But we also have to balance it with understanding that, like, it's almost like you get a certain amount of time to keep people's attention, and you have to deliver a message succinct enough that they can carry that with them. And hopefully when it comes to things like when we're playing festivals and when we're playing support shows, that we've said something impactful and succinct enough that it makes those people go, hey, that band I like was talking about this thing, and maybe I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm going to go home and look at it. Because like I can't stand up there and give you like a history of like any of these things in an amount of time and hold your attention and keep you engaged, right? But I can hopefully spark an interest. And like my favorite stories are like, we had a friend that texted me after Riot Fest, and he said, my mom was watching you play and said, why did he say that thing about Gaza? And then I said, let's talk about it tomorrow. And we had a long phone conversation, and now she's going to a rally. And it's like, man, that's what we're looking to do. And so like, I understand we've received some criticism even from fans that are like, hey man, you're kind of fucking up my show here. Like, I wanted to just watch you play. I agree with you. It's just, and like, you're saying the same thing every night. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to say it people are like, it sounds scripted. Okay, well, if you're coming to every show, sure, it sounds scripted. It is scripted. I'm scripting it. I'm trying to give it to you in the most impactful and succinct way. I'm trying to deliver it night over night in a way that's going to ignite people to go home and look for it. So if you feel like, oh man, that just feels like you're cutting a promo, I fucking am. It's like, what do you think a stump speech is? I'm trying to get people involved. And I've found and chosen very carefully the language and the emphasis and the timing to try to pull the most people in and have that conversation with them so that they can go have it at home.
Well, and I think that's just being realistic, right? Because it's like, if you were to go up on stage and just talk for 15 minutes, stream of consciousness, it's not going to pack the same punch, not just because of the length of it, but because people have a short attention span, and so it's like, I think thinking about it and being realistic about how do I capture this audience in a language that is not, polarizing or shameful. I think that's really important. You catch more flies with honey. And so if you're doing this instead of going up and yelling at them for not knowing about X, Y, or Z already, that's not gonna help change any minds or even make them, like you said, intrigued to go look at this stuff on their own.
Yeah, and further, we have the opportunity to speak to them because they've come to see us in concert, and the reason they're coming to see us is because we're good at our jobs. We put on a great show. So if I detract from putting on a great show to talk more, well, they're not going to come next time, and I won't be able to speak to them again.
And I
so
think
it's always a balancing
that's a great
act.
balance. But I think, again, that's a really good balance of, yeah, how do I do both things? As a musician, put on a good show, but also as a person, raise awareness about things that I care deeply about. And I think, this is a perfect segue, because something that you talked about succinctly, but that had a huge impact. Well, I don't like being so self-referential on this thing. I think I would be remiss, well, to say that Wonder Years this year had not only had Narcan available on their whole tour for their fans to come get at the merch booth, but you also got up on stage and talked about that every single night at every single show. And, like I mentioned to you before we started recording, at the distributions that we've done at festivals so far, we've had your fans come up because you inspired them to be more intrigued. And so I guess, my starting point would be, why Narcan? Why was this something that you decided was important to have?
Well, it kind of went hand in hand with the album we were playing, which is called No Closer to Heaven. And like kind of the cornerstone of the album is a song called Cigarettes and Saints. And it's a song about losing our friend to an opioid addiction. When we were like kind of, man, what would I have been? 23, right? Like these kind of formative years. And, in the years since then, Narcan has become available as a tool to help, harm reduction, right? To help mitigate those overdoses. And so we were thinking, hey, we're going to go do a tour. We're going to play that song every night. So we have a chance to do more good than just allow, because that song, in my mind, what it does is allows people a space for mourning, right? We have a lot of fans that have lost people like that. It allows people a space for reflection, because if they are in the throes of addiction at our shows, they get to hear what it feels like from the perspective of people that lost someone like them. And they get to consider what that would do. And that song has helped get a lot of people clean. It's helped a lot of people grieve. I love all of those things. If that song could also save some lives, even better, right? Save more lives, even better. And so we knew we wanted to offer Narcan at the shows. And when we found This Must Be the Place, we knew that it was the right partner for it. But there's one thing to just passively have Narcan available at the merch table. And sure, some people might take it. There's another thing to get up there on the stage and take a couple minutes of your set and say, in case you missed it, it's there. If you thought it cost money, it doesn't. You can take it. You can take it for free, and you can take it even, and especially if you don't feel like you're going to overdose, right? This isn't for you. This is to save someone else's life potentially. And it doesn't have to be someone you know. It could be a stranger. You could be at a show having Narcan in your pocket. Someone next to you might go down and you can save their life right there. It's a little piece of magic. And so, we felt like it was the right tour and the right time to make that clear and to spread that message and to offer that Narcan to people. And I think, you can correct me if we're wrong, but we gave away thousands of doses, right?
Oh my God. I think it came out to just over 4,000 doses, which
4,000 doses
insane.
Of Narcan.
It's crazy. And and again, like the ripple effects of, okay, you're passing out the Narcan at your shows, but then people are coming up to our booth at Kilby Block Party in Salt Lake City. People are reaching out to volunteer at Lollapalooza. It's just this, it doesn't just stop once they walk out the door, and I think for Perry and I, it was, yes, I think it's incredible when a band has it available for free at the merch booth, but for you to stand up and talk about the importance of it, I think is what is just, it's, the education component is so important as well, because you can offer something for free, but people maybe don't understand why it would fit into their lives and stuff. So you talking about that, it's just like, it's incredible. And I think, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we want to talk to people about Narcan. Before you started the tour, how did you decide? And for people who maybe didn't get to see your show this tour, what elements of Narcan did you talk about when you were up on stage? How did you decide sort of what details about it that you wanted to include?
I think that I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to note that it was easy to use. I wanted to, I said often, it was like, it looks like Flonase. It goes up your nose, right? It's not, because in my head when I was younger, and maybe this is actually true, but I remember it kind of being like an EpiPen originally.
Yes. The injectable was much more common. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, this isn't a thing that you have to have. You don't have to be an EMT to use this. So one of the things was I wanted to talk about the ease of use, right? Well, first of all, I wanted to say that it's there. It's there. It's free. You should take it. I keep it with me. And then, and I wanted to explain what it was. And then beyond I keep it with me, I wanted to say I keep it with me and I've been straight edge my entire life. Because I think that there's this thing where people go, well, if I'm going to keep it with me, well, why would I keep it with me? I don't do drugs. And I'm like, neither do I. I've never done a drug, right? I've never had a sip of beer in my life. I keep it with me. Because it's not, for me, it's there could be someone that needs my help and I want to be able to help them. And then I kind of wanted to destigmatize this idea. Like, I feel like there's this like hatred of people who are addicts, right? There's this hatred of people who are drug users. This like, I don't know, better than you philosophy that some people have, that it's like, oh, well, people do drugs and they overdose, then they die, and that's their problem. And I'm like,
shouldn't have done it if you didn't want the consequences.
You're an absolute bitch, man. You're a dumb fucking asshole. Like, I've
heard it all at this point.
It makes me so mad. And I was like, I said every night, people were saying, oh, it used to be don't do drugs. What is it now? If you do drugs, we'll save your life. And I would say, yeah, it fucking is. And then we play the song. Yeah, it fucking is. If you do drugs and you overdose and I have Narcan, I'm going to save your fucking life. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And it's just, but sometimes, like, oh God, the worst joke that I hear, and it doesn't happen as often as it used to as the years have gone by, which is great. But like, people walk by the booth and they'll be like, oh, I didn't bring my heroin today, so I don't need any Narcan. It's like, okay, man, good one. Great. Well done. But I do see this slow evolution of people being more willing to realize, like, okay, if someone uses drugs, that does not make them a bad person. And also, you can't save someone if they're dead. So you know what? Let's save them and then let's figure out the next part later, But without that little tool, you're not even getting to the aftermath of it, But I think the thing that I'm curious about from you having done this as well is like, we've gotten so many messages on Instagram, like talking about the importance of this. Like you said, talking about your fans who have lost someone. The opioid crisis is so far reaching, especially with everything that's happened with fentanyl. Like, have you gotten to have any conversations with any of your fans about their reception to this?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just, sometimes we'll be outside shows when people have come to several shows and they'll show me, hey, I took it. I took one yesterday,
That's
right?
Cool.
I have it. And, we hear from fans, and we've heard from fans since we wrote that song about, like I said, fans that have taken that song as an impetus to get clean, fans that have used that song as a way to grieve, and fans that go, hey, I lost one friend to an overdose and I won't again because I have this. And that's the coolest part.
How does it, I talk to musicians a lot about, sort of the challenges of being a musician with a platform that does care about people and wants to speak out about different things or wants to do certain things. But like, when you are able to see such immediate impact of this advocacy that you're doing, how does it feel?
I mean, it's great. There's certain things that we do. There's always a needle to thread. And I don't like, it was, Joe had to convince me to do this podcast because I don't always love talking about this shit because it feels like I'm asking for a pat on the back or I'm patting myself on the back, which is like never the point, right? But like, we try to make small incremental changes. We know that we can't do everything. We know that we can't solve any problem, right? Or every problem, but we try to make small incremental changes in the space that we control to make it a space where people feel welcome and people feel loved. And like, it's little things for us, right? Like, we go to war if we have to with every venue. It's in the contract. Every venue we play has to have a gender neutral bathroom. If we're the headliner. If we are
amazing.
in control. If we're in control, every venue has gender neutral bathrooms available. No venues are allowed to use strobes for light sensitive people, right? We always make sure that the security meetings are so long. We spend so much time with security on how to catch crowd surfers, how to deal with crowd surfers, how to make sure everyone is safe. These are not your adversaries. These are fans that are having fun. If the show falls during Ramadan and doors are before sundown, then we make sure that you're allowed to bring in food to break fast. Like, these are the things, like, we go argue for all these little things. We used to work with a nonprofit called Half Access that has shut down, but their goal was to make sure that every venue had their ADA compliances listed somewhere. If not on their own site, then on the Half Access database. So when we go advance shows, we always, we prod at venues. Just go put your stuff, make sure there's an ADA section on your website, right? We can't control it. We can't force them to, but we're always prodding them to. And it's like, it's things like this that we do that I think make it so that when fans come to the shows, they know that this is a space where they're cared for and welcome. And like, it's difficult. Like I said, I don't like to talk about it too much because I feel like it feels like self-congratulatory. Totally. But then like my friend was like, hey, I heard that on like Reddit, someone said you don't do the gender neutral bathroom thing anymore. And I'm like, no, we do. And like, oh, they said you haven't talked about it in a while. I'm like, yeah, we just don't talk about it. We do it every show. If there's a venue that won't do it, we have like a drag out fight with them until they agree. Like, we do this shit every show that we headline. It's just, I don't always love talking about it too much.
I totally get it. Yeah. Cause it's like, I think you never want it to seem like you're doing this, to get high on yourself, of like, oh, look how good of a person I am. But then on the flip side, I will say it's like, I'm happy you're talking about this because I think it also gives other bands sort of this, this boosted confidence to be like, okay, you know what? They're fighting for this stuff. I can do this. I won't be it. And especially for younger bands too, because I think like, I'm old now, but when I look at sort of these like 22, 23-year-olds who I've talked to, I think this generation is, caring about other people, caring about causes is so baked into who they are. And so I think them seeing another band having some sort of fight for what they care about, I think really does give them a bit more agency to be like, okay, me, I don't need to be so scared to ask what I want, or the little things that matter to me.
You can ask and you can push. Right. And like, sometimes you're going to hit a brick wall. Sometimes you're going to get a no. Sometimes you're going against something that is just more powerful than you are at that moment. But also, you're going to get more powerful. Right. Like, this whole thing, it's a system that runs on ticket sales. And if you sell tickets, then you are valuable to them. And when you become valuable to them, then you get more bargaining power. And so like, you can try something and maybe they'll say no. And maybe you push and they still say no. But if you come back through the next time and you've sold more tickets, then you have more bargaining power and you can try again. And we just keep pushing on stuff until we have enough bargaining chips to get the thing done.
This is just like such a nuts and bolts question, but like, throughout the course of your career, have you seen venues, if you sort of come in with this list of things that are important to you, are you finding or are you noticing that a lot of venues will have already proactively had this, that, or whatever? Has it changed at all?
Big time. I mean, sometimes they go, we're like, hey, we have, if you don't have a dedicated gender neutral bathroom, the thing that we like to do is paper over your signs and just say kind of gender neutral and this is what's in the bathroom. Just like, like literal physically, this one has stalls and urinals. And so we used to we still do bring the signs with us, but sometimes we'll be like, hey, we have these signs, like, oh, we've got them. We have our own.
Oh, that's amazing.
We've done this. Yeah. It's actually almost every show this week has wanted something like that. And it's great to see that kind of thing happen. When we say, hey, you used to say, hey, no strobes. And the house LD would be like, what? That's my whole job.
Yeah. What am I going to do?
And now they go, all right, no strobes, no problem. No issue.
That's really cool, not because I think that like bands aren't willing to sort of push for those things, but just like it's nice to see that change is happening, in every sort of little corner of the industry in that way. But I think, to wrap this up, I like to end this on, because, these topics, it can be hard, to talk about this stuff in this day and age. But I think for you, if someone's listening to this, music fan or just an average person, and they're feeling like overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, and they're like, I just want to try and do something that makes me feel a little less shitty. Again, not for my own personal self, but just to try and feel like I'm giving back or I'm doing something. What kind of advice would you give to someone right now?
That you can't, won't, it's impossible to do everything, just do a thing. You go do one
Yeah.
thing. And like, you're always going to feel like, man, I wish I was doing more. I wish I could do more. I think about it all of the time. We're always thinking like, is there something else that we should be doing, could be doing? But if, and there's always a kind of a fear of criticism and a fear of like, someone trying to find some hypocrisy. Oh, you make sure that this is here for these people, but you didn't do this thing for these other people. You have to be able to tune that out and say, I'm going to try to do the most good that I can, the most good that I'm capable of, the most good that I have the space to, because like at the same time, I'm not I'm not like an activist, right? I'm a musician.
Yeah.
I'm a parent. Before anything else, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And so like you do what you have the space to do. And then you count on other people to do what they have the space to do. And if everyone is doing something, then a whole lot's getting done.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And that's, I think, like a really common refrain and an important one to remember. Like, when we started, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to help solve the opioid crisis. It's like, no, we're not, but we're going to be able to give out this little Flonase looking thing that can really actually help save someone.
So let's say we gave out 4,000 doses on that tour, the two of us together here, right? If 1% of those got used, that's 40 lives. If 0.1% got used, that's 4 human beings, 4 people who have an unknowable, vast universe inside of their mind, a family and friends, 4 people. With 0.1%, 4 people got to live because of that.
Yeah.
It's so
and,
big.
It's incredible. And yeah, we've after 5 years, we've lost track of exact numbers, but it's probably somewhere in about 160,000 we've given out. And we estimate, based on, messages we've got, feedback we've gotten in person, probably about 2,500 reversals. And so it's just like, on one hand, the curmudgeon can look at, well, look at the ratio of what you've given out to that. But I'm like, 2,500 fucking people, like that's, I'll keep doing this for however long, even if that's the ratio, because I think it's like, it's unreal. And so you just like keep doing it, because I think people are willing to use it, and the way it's been explained to them makes them feel confident to do that. And so, yeah, I'll keep doing it as long as the train's on the tracks,
It's really amazing. And I'm really happy to have partnered with you on it.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for talking to me. Yeah, I'm so happy that we got to talk about this, and that I know it's cringeworthy, but again, I cannot thank you enough for helping us out. You've definitely helped us save some lives, so I appreciate it so much.
You helped us do it. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course.